Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So today I wanted to recommend 7 non-key CGC 9.8 comic books that you can invest in. And yeah, these non-keys are kind of cool because somehow they become really well collected, and a lot of times it's just because they got like a really cool cover or just something special about them in general. And you know, occasionally in the collector community you hear like, oh, you know, I'm not going to buy that because it's not a key issue. And like, I think that's a bit of a mistake. You know, I think some of these, the covers are so cool, the artists are like really classic artists, and there's some classic books that you can kind of point to and say that's not a key issue that have just become huge key classic books. Like, I'm talking kind of Silver Age books, and I'll mention kind of one of them a bit later maybe. But let's get into the list here of 7 non-key CGC 9.8 comic books that you could invest in. And the first one, it's a bit of like maybe not an investment because it's so like such a non-key, but yeah, well, let's get right into it. First one here, Incredible Hulk 454. And I have 2 copies in the raw of Incredible Hulk 454. One of my favorite books to kind of try to pick up in the Incredible Hulk bins at your local comic shop for like $5 or something. But whenever Hulk and Wolverine are on the cover in an Incredible Hulk issue, it's a special issue, I think. And yeah, this one kind of sort of gets lost. I think it came out in like 97, I think it was, if I remember correctly. Kind of gets lost out there in the Hulk and Wolverine issues, but I think a really cool cover by Adam Kubert, sorry. Yeah, I always get them mixed up. Adam Kubert on this one, but Andy and Adam Kubert, 2 of my favorite kind of 90s artists. I'll get a graphic up here. But Incredible Hulk 454 definitely kind of passes the sort of non-key test, I think, and is a really cool Wolverine and Hulk cover to consider. So just for fun, we'll look at the CGC 9.8s, 19 9.8s out there in the blue label. 76% is the CGC 9.8 ratio, so of all graded copies, 76% of them are 9.8s. Nothing to kind of write home about, but there's only 19 in the 9.8 that you can get. It's more about that 1 of 19 collector item. And having trouble kind of finding some pricing information for this one too, but and that's why I kind of mentioned at the beginning, like just one to really swipe out of your raw bins whenever Hulk and Wolverine get on the cover. It's special. But in the 9.8, because there's only 19 out there, like I have a feeling this will at least be $100. So like 100 to 125. You know, I noticed too that, you know, maybe it's like $1 or $2 higher than just your normal Incredible Hulk non-key. So, you know, your big Hulk Wolverine fans like me are kind of zeroing in on it, but still so underfollowed. Definitely a non-key. And Incredible Hulk 454, one to consider for cheap in the raw. And yeah, I mean, if I ever saw one of those 1 of 19s kind of pop up for like $125 or $150 in the 9.8 white pages, I would be really tempted to grab one. But yeah, one of my favorites to just check out from the Incredible Hulk bins that you can usually find. Yeah, one non-key to consider there, Incredible Hulk 454. Next one here is Star Wars Annual number 3. This is just a classic Darth Vader cover. You know, with the kind of throat choke, classic Darth Vader for sure. I got that one t-shirt where I usually always get quite a bit of comments on it, where Darth Vader's kind of, you know, doing the force choke. In the 9.8 though, because this is, I think, a 1983 book, 24 CGC 9.8s out there in the blue label. So yeah, just for... And because this is an annual, it's so underfollowed and overlooked, and to have a 1 of 24 collector item if you're a big Darth Vader fan like me, this is one I kind of want to zero in on. And there is one on eBay right now, off white to white pages, and I think they're asking $375, but it's not really selling. I believe they've like listed it quite a few times, not really selling at $375. 24.7% the 9.8 ratio, which is not too bad, but nothing to kind of write home about. It's all, yeah, with these lower graded books, it's more about kind of the 1 of 24 collector item, because that's not a lot at all. So amazing Darth Vader cover, and price for this one. I wasn't seeing any completed listings, and on Go Collect, it doesn't, if you don't pay for the membership, it's not giving you a price for this one. So with that $375 one not really selling, I think right around $250 this one will probably like instantly be bought. $225 to $250 I think is like a really great price on this one in the CGC 9.8. Certainly in the raw too. Yeah, these annuals are just overlooked, so you could probably find this one for pretty cheap if at a really good kind of back issue comic store maybe. But in the 9.8, I think $250 is a really good price. If you really wanted it, pay up to $300 probably. Like a 1 of 24 classic Darth Vader cover, like from the original Star Wars series, is kind of classifies as passes as a non-key, I think, too. Definitely one to consider. Star Wars Annual number 3. So next one here is X-Men number 11 from the early 90s. Yeah, classic Jim Lee and Bob Wycheck cover too. And yeah, I always, even when I talk about my Incredible Hulk 340s that I have, I always forget to mention Bob Wycheck teamed up with Todd McFarlane on Incredible Hulk 340 cover. And I'm always just kind of such a huge McFarlane geek, I just keep talking about McFarlane. But Bob Wycheck teamed up with Jim Lee, another one of my favorite artists on this cover. And X-Men 11, I just think this one has classic potential because you kind of get the whole like new team on the cover, like pretty much, and it's just so well done. And you like to just have the whole team on the cover. That's why I think I kind of, really wanted to put this one on the list. So there's 115 CGC 9.8s in the blue label out there. So, pretty well printed, these early 90s books, but this one still kind of slips under the radar, and there's not too many of them, but still gettable. 73% the 9.8 ratio. So, yeah, not, too rare in the 9.8, and you can get this one for pretty great price. So, yeah, I think there's one that I just sold. I think it was like $125 on eBay. And I think maybe the highest completed listing was like 160 or 150 or something like that. But this is even one that if you get it in an auction, because it's not a real hot book or anything like that, maybe even get this closer to $100, maybe even under $100 in an auction in the 9.8 white pages. In the direct version, yeah, there's the kind of second print, well collected version that is really rare on the census too in the 9.8. I think there was like 20 or something like that, if my memory's right. For that more rare, so if you really like this cover and you maybe want, maybe your budget's a little bit higher, you could check out it's the same kind of look as this cover, but actually has a pretty cool different look to it, and is more rare in the 9.8. Likely more expensive for sure. I would say maybe $300 to $400 for that more rare 9.8, with there not being very many at all out there. But for the price, right around $100, say $125 for X-Men 11. With only like 115 9.8s out there, this is kind of a cool one, given really cool cover. Yeah, just the kind of the new team pin up by Jim Lee and Bob Wycheck is so classic. Yeah, so next one here on a non-key list is Spider-Man and Batman Disordered Minds. Yeah, this is a one-off in the 90s. Yeah, you got kind of Mark Bagley and I think it's Scott Hanna, who's like pretty like classic 90s artists right there for sure. And this one too, it's a Joker and Carnage appearance. So yeah, the Joker and the Carnage are the two villains, which is like awesome for sure. I first was kind of turned on to this book by it's Petro George Instagram, like team member George. Yeah, we talked for quite a while. He's buying consistently new 9.8s and stuff, and he had posted this one on his Instagram saying like, oh, why isn't it more popular? And he had a nice looking 9.8. And I kind of agree with him. Yeah, so 97 9.8s in the blue label out there. 54.8%, so just over half of them are all graded are 9.8s. But one of 97, pretty cool. Joker Carnage appearance. I bet this is a good read. I haven't read it, but it is a memorable cover. And I mean, yeah, for me, Spider-Man and Batman, my two favorite heroes. So this is one that I've been sort of doing a little bit of searches. Like I haven't kind of pulled the trigger or anything, but yeah, speaking of those searches, there was a newsstand copy of this on eBay right now. I'm pretty sure it's like $169.99, something like that. I was, tempted to pull the trigger on that, the more rarer version of this with, yeah, just because Spider-Man, Batman, two of my favorite heroes, and I was really tempted on that, but probably just going to hold off at this time. That is a pretty good price, though, if you want a kind of a pretty more rare version of this book, the newsstand version. So price, though, in the direct, and the price, looking on eBay for completed listings, The lowest sort of auction price was $80, and the highest was like $110 in the direct version, not the newsstand version. So one you can get for pretty cheap that has kind of a lot of cool things going for it. Yeah, the Joker Carnage appearance for sure too, and 2 classic heroes. Yeah, I could see this being a little, more collected, and around $100. Like that's, that it makes sense in the 9.8 white pages for sure at that price. All right, next non-key book here to consider is a Superman number 205. Yeah, this is another classic Jim Lee cover, and I could have went with Superman 204. Is a great Jim Lee pinup Superman cover, but I kind of like this like action one better. And there's 2 covers to this Superman 205. One's like a Michael Turner cover. This is the Jim Lee cover of kind of, Superman kind of squeezing the missiles and stuff. Like, yeah, I love this cover. And having a look on the census, it's well collected. This is one of those non-keys that, it's just the Jim Lee run's really popular. This cover's awesome, so it's well collected. 233 9.8s in the blue label. So you can find this one, even though it is pretty tough to find. That's the blue label too. There's quite a lot of Signature Series books out there as well. We'll talk about the Signature Series price too in a second here. 73.3%. The 9.8 ratio, which of all graded copies, 73.3% of them are 9.8s. That's not too rare at all. But pricing on Superman 205, in seeing a completed listing in a really nice Signature Series, that went for $199. And, that's pretty cool. Like, this cover has classic cover potential, I think. Signed by Jim Lee, this one was just kind of a single signature for $199. I think that's a pretty good value, and yeah, pretty great Superman collector item, certainly if you're a Jim Lee fan too. And I didn't see any blue label completed listings on eBay, but I'm thinking right around $100 up to $125, very similar to a couple of the books we discussed before, because yeah, just the coolest cover ever, but it's a non-key, so it hasn't, really taken off in price at all. But Superman 205, 204 you can consider as well, are just really cool kind of, Jim Lee CGC 9.8s to consider. As well, consider them in the raw too. Yeah, great ones to look for, your kind of local comic shop bin. All right, last 2 here, I want to get into a couple classics. And next one, it's a Wolverine number 8. Yeah, we've kind of talked about this a couple times in the last month here, but worth a revisit. Wolverine number 8, just a super classic late 80s Wolverine and Hulk cover that's really memorable, I think, to a lot of people. On the census, 421 CGC 9.8s in the blue label, and 41.4% is the CGC 9.8 ratio on this one. And yeah, I think for this one, it's worth mentioning again because it does have that nostalgic appeal, I think, to so many people that it will become more collected. And I think the price is like trending in the right direction because, yeah, certainly it's done well kind of with a lot of CGC 9.8s that are kind of hot right now. But, not all 9.8s have went up, but this one really has, yeah. Because, 8 to 12 months ago, let's call it, a couple auctions for these, and I was trying to get another one. We came across for like 120, 130. And I really should have got in there at that point. I do have one. I should have brought out my CGC 9.8 of Wolverine number 8. But I do want another one. It's such a classic book that I think still has more potential because recent completed listings in auctions are about $200, like 205, 210, 200. I think, one maybe a month or two ago went for like 170 something, 179 kind of thing. But yeah, a book that's kind of went from 120 to 200 in the last year, and I think it could just be, maybe it kind of settles in at like 275 or something like that if it continues the trend. Because yeah, it's just a classic late 80s. If you're a big Wolverine and Hulk fan, this is like one of the affordable ones to grab, I think. So yeah, fits on a non-key too, not it really having a big first appearance or anything. So Wolverine number 8, a classic to consider. All right, our last one on the list is a Batman 423. Yeah, glad I have 2 Batman 423s in the CGC 9.8 white pages. Got them in the kind of first print direct editions. Certainly there's the newsstand too, which would be so awesome. And yeah, for Batman 423, a couple had just sold too, and I had a lot of people on the team sending me messages about the completed listings, because even with like 2 days left, there was like, you know, they were already over $800 kind of. There were two that had just sold on eBay in auction in the CGC 9.8. So we'll get to those prices, but 111 9.8s on the in the blue label on the census for CGC 9.8s and Batman 423, the first print. So a 1 of 111 collector item. It used to be, you know, when I was really recommending this, like when the movie started, because I've always recommended, it was like one of the third or fourth videos we ever did on the channel, me talking about Batman 423, such a sweet book to get in the 9.8. There was like 82 of them or 85 of them. Now there's 111 in the 9.8, 14.3%, the CGC 9.8 ratio. So of all graded copies, only 14.3% of them are CGC 9.8s. And yeah, that is, you know, pretty rare for a late 80s book, especially a late 80s Batman book. Yeah, this really sticks out. This book in Batman 428, really great Batman CGC 9.8s of the era to buy. They're really kind of bottom of the barrel in as far as the 9.8 ratio goes. Like, it's the lowest of kind of the era. So two books I would recommend. Now, Batman 423, I think, has sort of become a key issue, but it's one of these where for the last 2 or 3 years, and when I really bought them and spent pretty big money on them back then, the argument was, well, it's not a key issue. Like, there's no big first appearance, you know? And, you know, for me, it was just the coolness and the feeling of the cover and just remembering it from when I was a kid, how cool it was. And it still is really cool. And it's a great collector item as a Batman fan, because there's only 111 of them in the blue label. There's like about 50 in the signature series. But another thing too, with the Batman movie coming out, like, we'll talk about these prices, you know, the environment's out there for there to be a lot of Batman fans coming out of the woodwork. So these prices are maybe make a little bit more sense in that context. But one went for $910 in the CGC 9.8, and another one went for $1,051 in the 9.8. And the $1,051, I was having a good look at it. It was like a really perfect copy, basically. Yeah, looking really good, nice coloring, nice centering along the spine. And so I could almost understand someone just really, really going for that one. But Batman 423, I think with the Batman movie teaser coming out, this is one of those tough ones for me now, because I certainly was always recommending it in the last 3 years, but now that promotion's really picked up, you know, like 6 months to a year after the Batman movie, like, how much are these going to still be going for $1,000? You know, I don't know. I think it could maybe settle in more, you know, around where Batman The Dark Knight Returns is, you know, which is such a classic 1980s CGC 9.8. That's maybe about $750 to get, you know, a really nice one, like a decent price on that one. So for these going over $1,000, is it worth more than Batman The Dark Knight Returns? It's really on the opposite ends of the spectrum, because Batman The Dark Knight Returns, one of the biggest keys of the Batman era, and there's a lot of them in the 9.8. This one, you know, McFarlane cult of fans loving the cover, classic Batman cover, not really a key. Only 111 9.8s. I believe there's like 800 or maybe even more of Batman The Dark Knight Returns, #1, first print. You know, that big classic Frank Miller book. So will it hold after the Batman movie? And I'm sure, you know, since the Batman teaser, that Dark Knight Returns has probably increased in value as well. Maybe that's about $1,000 too. So these seem to be kind of leading the charge in Batman books. But yeah, I always kind of recommend during the promotional times, you probably want to be patient. Yeah, because I just think after a year after the Batman's out of theater, will this be over $1,000 in the CGC 9.8? I'm not sure. I think it could maybe settle in around like 800 maybe or something like that. So you might be able to get a better price if you're patient. But leading into the Batman movie, there could be some, you know, 1,300, 1,004, you know, like some auctions that would be sort of a sign of the time, because so much promotion, bring in a lot of noobs kind of Batman that don't know much about 9.8s that are just like, I want that, willing to spend whatever on it. And that's kind of what happens with these 9.8s, I think. So again, a couple years after that, you want to start thinking like, how much are they going to go for? You know, might be worth it maybe jumping in there now and getting one under 1,000 if you wanted it really, really bad for Batman 423. But yeah, certainly remember all that promotion kind of context and maybe being patient, you might get a better price. All right, that's the 7 there. I'll have a list in the description below of the 7. You just want to check them out. But yeah, these non-key issues, they're worth having a look at. And I did boil it down here into top picks. So first one, and considering the price and the timing I like to do on these top picks, first one's X-Men number 11. Yeah, just the classic new team with Jim Lee and Bob Wycheck cover is so eye-appealing, and I think could be really collectible over the years. And for 125, you know, absolutely, that just makes sense. Yeah, X-Men number 11 and the 9.8 white pages from 100 to 125 bucks makes a lot of sense. Wolverine number 8, next top pick. Yeah, Wolverine number 8. Just the classic Wolverine and Hulk cover that's still affordable, and I think it's going to be kind of a go-to collector item. You know, it's done pretty well. It's kind of trending in the right way, I think, but has classic cover potential, like one of these late 80s books that you can still get for a decent price, and it's definitely kind of a non-key. But yeah, Wolverine 8, a classic that you can hopefully get under 200 bucks. Maybe if you want it, you know, if you really want it, a little over 200, probably you'll have to bid now. But Wolverine number 8 is such a classic, and always going to be a top pick until it like really takes off, I think. Still in that affordable range. Last one is a Batman 423. Yeah, so it's you know, I got 2, and I have 1 raw newsstand, which is really cool. I was glad to have picked that up, and I have like 4 or 5 first prints just in the raw of this book too. One of my favorite Todd McFarlane Batman, my favorite hero. McFarlane, my favorite artist, basically. So just one to have for me. Hopefully you get some lulls here in Batman 423, because I do want to recommend it, and if this was like a month before that Batman teaser came out, it would probably be my top pick, but considering that promotion, it's going to be hard to get a good price. But Batman 423 is just one of the best Batmans, certainly from the 80s in the CGC 9.8. So concluding up, yeah, I just think you don't want to like overlook or disregard these non-key issues that have become really collected, because yeah, most non-keys, you're right, like in the 9.8s, they're like 30 bucks, 40 bucks, like they're not really worth it. But when a cover just kind of grabs attention and the collector base notices and they start paying a little more for it, I think it's, you know, not very smart to be like, yeah, I'm not going to collect that because it's not a key. Because then, you know, you wouldn't have any of these. You wouldn't have any like Hulk 340s, and there's like countless books. And yeah, I mentioned kind of at the beginning, an older book is Batman 251, like the classic Joker cover. I mean, there's been a lot of Joker covers throughout the years. You could have easily said at the time, oh, it's, you know, it looks cool, but it's not a key. So, but you know, that one is so well collected now. It's you know, a book that's done well in value, and the 9.8s are like $7,000 or something like that, probably even more now with the Batman trailer dropping and getting everyone jacked about Batman. But these non-keys are definitely worth kind of, we've done a video sort of like this before, and I think it's worth to kind of continue doing them every now and then for sure, because the non-keys that are, you know, that fit this mold are sometimes end up being worth, you know, just as much as the big keys. And yeah, we've highlighted more of them on that other video too, if you want to check that one out in the archives. All right, that'll be all for the video today. And yeah, if you haven't already, I would invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Hit the bell for all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter as well. Yeah, and message me on Instagram if you had any questions about comics or whatever it is. If you're just looking to buy a certain one, yeah, I just love talking about CGC 9.8 hunting, because that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm still kind of on the lookout for whatever it might be. Okay, thank you again for all the support from the team. Yeah, so appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one.